Yeah, obviously the defense there kept the game manageable at first. In that first half. Because we didn't have great field position, and then we weren't doing anything on offense to change the field position. We punt it back to them. We talk about in backed up football a lot that defense. If you get a stop, that usually leads to points, and their defense was getting stops, and but those points were 3 points as opposed to seven, which is a huge difference in a game like that. So I really believe that the way that we played defense in that, on those short fields, kept the game close where we could make the surge that we did at the end of the game. So just excellent job there. Our guys do such a good job of matching routes, and talking through, all the different combinations that we get, and being on the same page of how we match everything out. Sometimes down there in the red zone, the space, obviously not sometimes, it always shrinks, right? And so now you have that extra defender on the sideline, you have the extra defender in the back end line, and we've just done a really good job there. On the one, I think they were 3rd and 2, and they ran it in, but Jalen Carter created some havoc up front, and they ended up holding him on that, which made it a 3rd and 10, and then again another good match in the secondary. So, but it is about, what I know what we talk about a lot, Rube, offensively, is being able to move the ball up consistently in the red zone. That moment you get behind the sticks in the red zone, is the moment where it's going to be really hard to score. And we did some good things to limit runs down there. We did some good things to force a penalty, and then we did a good job of matching routes.
We'll go to Brooks and then Elliot.
Hey Nick, when you were speaking about AJ yesterday, it seemed like you were emotional while speaking in length about how he's carried himself. I'm wondering, among all the many things we talked about the last couple of months, why that subject had personal significance to you.
Yeah, I got emotional yesterday in the locker room with just the handling adversity. And I thought that our guys did a really good job of you know, dealing with adversity throughout the game, and just keep getting up. And I think, that was definitely one topic of where I was a little bit emotional yesterday, because these guys are going to have to, it's not just a football thing, that, you're hoping that you're helping guys become better men as well, with the stuff that you can learn through football, to being tough, being detailed, being together. And so, they just kept getting up. And then I think, you know, I there's so many outside things that can sway our thinking, I think, too, and that we don't want to live like that in a football building, right? We want to be committed to our process. We know that it's not going to be immediate results. We want to be team oriented, because being team oriented, when I say that, isn't just good for the team. It's good for, individually too, right? For everybody, because in this sport, you need your teammates to make the plays that you want to make as an individual. And so, I think it's just, those are two things we've talked a lot about. I feel, and again, like I said, I felt like AJ really handled himself with a lot of maturity. And I listened to the thing yesterday, and what I think he's trying to say in that manner is, we talk a lot about um, being on the attack on offense, and not really worried about what they do on defense, because what we've been seeing as a good offense has been a lot of different stuff that you might not even be able to prepare for. And so that's how I kind of took what he said yesterday also. But I think he's just done such a good job of, because I'm not sure he's went through the last 2 weeks without answering those questions every day. And I just, you know, you love when someone's able to answer the bell after going through ups and downs. And that's why I said what I said earlier, as far as being able to handle the dog mentality of getting through the downs, and picking yourself back up. And I kind of correlate what AJ, was, had to go through too, in that same category, that's just always something that, you know, hits close home to me, is handling adversity, for many different reasons that I won't get in here to today. but that core value always means a lot to me. That toughness, particularly that mental toughness core value, really means a lot to me. And I think that's probably where you saw my emotion on that yesterday, Brooks.
We'll go to Elliot and then Ed.
Hey, Nick. There's been some speculation that yesterday in the second half, Jalen was calling the plays and Kevin Patullo maybe wasn't as involved as he normally is. I was wondering if you could clarify if there was any truth to that. And then secondly, what have you seen from their working relationship this year as they get more games under their belt together?
Yeah, Kevin called the plays yesterday in that second half. Jalen, but make no mistake about it, like Jalen does a great job of communicating. Jalen sees the field really, really, really well. He can come back and tell you what happened without even looking at the picture. And then you look at the picture, like, yeah, that's exactly what happened. Jalen has a great feel for how that's going, and so there's communication, right? There's talk through it, everything like that. But yeah, Kevin called the plays. Kevin will continue to call the plays. But I love the communication that we get from Jalen. I love the communication that we get from, all our guys. I think, we get a lot of good information from our guys, Jalen particularly, and that's the way it should be. He's a quarterback. But you don't trust every quarterback. You trust the ones that they're telling you what they see, and Jalen does a really good job of telling us that in the game. I really like the relationship that they have. Probably a better question for them, so they can. But I always, I know they're close. I know they spend a lot of time together talking through the plan. I know they spend a lot of time together going through situations. A better question for them, but I do value that relationship that those two have, because I think they're really lockstep and do a great job of, I know they both care about each other. I know they both want what's best for each other. I know, Kevin wants Jalen to succeed, and doing everything he can to help him do that. So I love that relationship that those two have.
We'll go to Ed and then Dave.
Yeah. Hi, Nick. After the game, Jalen gave an interview to Pam Oliver and said that it seemed like they're playing not to lose the game. I mean, do you see any of that creeping in at all in these first three games? And what's your assessment of that?
Jalen said that. I'm sorry, Ed. He said that about the Rams.
No, he said that to Pam Oliver, that we have to get out of this playing not to lose. That you played so many different styles in the first half. And I'm just wondering if you see any inkling of that. Do you see any of that creeping in, that, whether it's inadvertently, the playing not to lose type mentality, playing a little too close to the vest?
Man, our guys did everything they could do to scratch, claw, and win that game. I think it goes back to what I said with AJ, what we talked about all week, what Jalen talked about, what Kevin talked about, particularly in that offensive meeting, is when you're good on offense. I know I've said this to you guys a bunch. When you got the guys that we have on offense, you're going to see, and when you're explosive in different ways, you're going to see stuff that you don't see on tape. And what we said all week, particularly Jalen and Kevin, and obviously I thought that this as well, was we're the offense. We got to be in this mode of attacking, and that's what our mindset was. And obviously the first half didn't play out that way for multiple different reasons. But I think that's what you guys can ask them. But I think that's what Jalen's saying there. I think that's what AJ's saying here. But what I definitely felt from our team is there was this supreme confidence, especially as we started to chip away, right? We had a bad first half. Then that second half starts like, all right, let's go. We here's our, we regrouped, let's go. And it got worse, right? It got worse. But then all I saw a team doing was doing everything they could do to find a way to win this game. And man, I'm just so proud of the guys of how hard they worked, how they just kept getting back up, because it wasn't like, right, we talked about how the second half started. But then it wasn't like stop, score, stop, score, stop, score. There was a little bit of that, but there was stop, score. Then it was they drive, field goal block. All right, boom, we drive, turnover on downs, right? So it wasn't still this adversity in there because it didn't happen just like that. And so all I saw as a team is just kept getting back. All I saw from our team and our coaches was guys just continuing to fight, getting back up, and shoot, that ball could have bounced a different way yesterday, and we could have very easily lost that game. And hats off to the Rams. It's a good football team. But I just saw our guys just continue to fight over and over again. Now, again, we have a lot to clean up. Like, we can't play that way and win consistently. So that was when we got in there today, that was the mood of the whole thing, right? And I told you guys this yesterday. Yeah, we're going to celebrate like crazy on Sunday, but tomorrow we're going to tell each other the truth and get back at it. And that's what today, that's what today was all about.
We'll go to Dave and then Tim.
Nick, when it comes to Jalen being assertive during a game like we saw yesterday, how much has he grown in that area? Just the comfort with the coaching staff and with Kevin in particular.
Yeah, I think, again, like I said, he's always had a good relationship with Kevin, regardless of Kevin being the coordinator or not. And Jalen's always saw the field really well. Obviously, he gets better and better and better as reps that he takes throughout his career. I think a lot of quarterbacks are that way. And so we've always valued his, what he sees out there, because he can really tell us what he sees out there, and, even better than a picture can show it when you're looking at it. So that's a really good asset to have as a coaching staff, because, again, Jalen does, there's all these things that he does so well that helps us win football games. That's just another one, right? Of the way he can communicate and talk to us of what he's seen. And again, that's what you need. That's what you want out of your quarterback. I'm glad we have a quarterback like Jalen Hurts that does that and consistently does that.
We have time for a couple more, so we'll go to Tim and then finish with Zach.
Nick, the record overall 19-1 in your last 20 games, last 17 that Jalen has started and finished the game have all been victories. What kind of things do you think about that come first and foremost to your mind when you think about that level of sustained success that you guys are on right now?
Yeah, that's a good question, Tim. I guess the first thing that comes to mind is our detail wasn't what I wanted it to be yesterday, right? And our team feels that same way. And the reminder of, hey, we play like this, you forget going 19-1 or whatever it is. You don't win the next one or the next one when you play like that. Like, I think about, we've been a detailed team that's had that sustained success. Obviously, we have great talent, but we have a team that plays together and tough and detailed. And yesterday wasn't detailed enough. So that you say that, and then that's the first thing I think of is like, well, if we're going to do that again, we can't be the type of detail that we had yesterday. And that's from coaches, that players, everything. I don't think I did a good enough job yesterday. I take a lot of pride that our fundamentals are what they are. And obviously good players allow you to be able to do that. But, and I say that by saying, we put them in these positions to execute their fundamentals. Obviously, again, their talent is what it is. But then it's my job as the head coach. Anytime I say, hey, the detail wasn't right, I'm the only person I'm looking at is myself first, because I feel like I hold that to, hey, if our detail's not right, I put so much time into that as the head coach that I really, I don't like when that looks like that, because I know that I didn't do my job well enough. And I say that with the kickoff return, right? I didn't put those guys on the kickoff return in enough positions that week. Again, me, because, by fielding those kicks and even going back. Now, you learn from that, and all I'm thinking about is how we're going to do that moving forward and get better at that moving forward, because it'd be the same way if we didn't have a catch and drag on the sideline on a catch or missed tackles. And so when you said that, that's the first thing that came to my mind. I maybe you probably wanted a different answer there, Tim, but that, it's like all those things, you judge yourself coming out of a game. Did you play to the standard of your culture? And win, lose, or draw? Did you play to that standard? When you consistently play to that standard with the talent that we have and the talent that Howie has given us, then we know we can, we can put ourselves in best position to see. But when you don't, those don't happen without, playing to your standard and the talent that you have. So that was the first thing that came to my mind, Tim, when you asked that question, is this: we got to be more detailed, and it starts with me. And it always, and anytime there's missed tackles or drops, or we're not fielding the ball clean on that, I look at myself first and foremost, because that detail and that fundamental is my job.
We'll finish with Zach here.
Hey, good afternoon, Nick. We see special teams drills on Wednesday and Thursday, but how much time do you guys spend during the week on field goal block? And then the second part of that question, some of the top D tackles in the league don't necessarily play special teams. What is it about Jalen Carter and Jordan Davis that they're part of those units?
Yeah, and I want you to flip it to the other side, where Jordan Mailata and Landon Dickerson and Tyler Steen, where all those guys play field goal too. I think that's just the selflessness of our football team. Cooper DeJean plays on kickoff. Jalix Hunt plays on kickoff, right? And so we just have these guys that are willing to do whatever we need to do to win football games, whether that's sacrificing one place or the other or playing special teams, and it's no different there. And I think you look back, like some of our good pushes from the last couple of years, you have Jordan Davis on it, you have Jalen Carter, you have Brandon Graham on it, and it's like, Brandon Graham's a 15-year vet and he's still on this. Boom. It paints all those guys, and I give so much credit to the Jason Kelsey, Brandon Graham, Fletcher Cox, of them carrying that culture, and now and Lane and now all the guys that we have now of carrying the culture, and it's just it's team, it's together, it's something that it's one of the things. Hey, you're looking at your detail after a game, but you're also looking at how you played together. I thought we played extremely hard yesterday. I thought we played extremely mentally tough yesterday, extremely together. Our detail just wasn't there. I think of it in that way, and those guys, man, what a good rush that they had, 2 rushes that they had, and really that just doesn't turn on, in the moment. If you look back at all the field goals, they're rushing like that, and all the extra points, because they know those can change a game. So I think I'd say this too, that Jalen Carter has worked himself back into being, is getting himself back into the best shape of his life. And Jordan Davis, there's been a lot of talk about how he's in the best shape of his life. But you saw that yesterday, in the sense that the very last play of a dogfight, and sometimes when you're in the bottom of the dogfight and you're trying to fight your way back up, it's even more tiring. But in the moment like that, they were still able to give this extreme effort to help us win the game, because they still had stuff in their tank, because they've worked their butts off to be in the best shape of their life. You look at a play that Jalen, and again, we talked about Jalen having to continue to get better at that, and he worked extremely hard at that this week, and he'll continue to work hard at that. But you're seeing him come out of the stack, getting strip attempts on the football. And so I loved how hard we played, and those 2 guys showed that. I love how hard we played as a team, and those 2 guys showed that all the way till the very end, which ended up helping us win the game. And then we didn't need Jordan to scoop and score, but he did. And he had the energy and to be able to finish that off as well.
And how much time do you spend on field goal block during the week?
A lot, just as much as we spend on field goal, and so we talk about that a lot. We're in a lot of that. Coach Clay does a really good job of separating out the time, for special teams, and with the walkthroughs and the practice and the individual drills. So that he does a really good job there, and we spend quite a bit of time on that.